I welcome you, friends. You are watching the channel of Ruslan Belov, and today we will analyze in detail the situation in Ukraine as of January 21st, 2026. Over the past 24 hours, truly many important events have occurred, so without further introductions, let us get straight to the point. Last night, numerous reports were received stating that the Russian Federation was carrying out strikes on the territory of Ukraine, while the Ukrainian side responded with attacks on the southern regions of the Russian Federation. During the last 24 hours, the Ministry of Defense of the Russian Federation has regularly published reports on the performance of air defense. For instance, in the interval from 8 to 11 o'clock in the evening on January 20th, 2026, the Russian side claimed the interception and destruction of 53 drones. The main part of these targets was shot down over the Black Sea, over Crimea, in the area of the Krasnodar Krai, as well as over the Sea of Azov. That is to say, the majority of these 53 drones were neutralized approximately within the specified zone. I will remind you that, judging by the general logic of events, the Ukrainian side could have conducted this raid as a retaliatory measure for the strike that was delivered on the night of January 20th, essentially yesterday, against the Kiev region. We have already discussed this footage previously, and the strikes targeted energy infrastructure facilities. Thus, the attack on the night of January 21st is perceived as a sort of retaliatory strike. Furthermore, reports appeared today that during the course of the day, the Ukrainian side carried out strikes on the territory of Crimea as well. Video materials published by local sources are circulating in the public domain. According to incoming data, an air raid alert was declared in the region, which lasted approximately 30 minutes, and several targets were destroyed over Sevastopol, as well as directly over the Crimean Peninsula. In turn, the Russian Federation also continued strikes against Ukraine throughout the night. According to information that Ukrainian sources are relaying with reference to the Ministry of Defense of Ukraine, 98 drones were utilized during the night. The Ukrainian side claims that 84 of them were shot down. Also, a map of strikes for the past 24 hours was published during the night. It is reported that the attacks were carried out by drones, aviation was employed, and the use of several Iskander missiles was recorded. In addition to this, over the past 24 hours, Russian sources have posted a large amount of material regarding strikes on the temporary deployment points of the armed forces of Ukraine, as well as on various positions and critical infrastructure facilities. In particular, a video appeared from the Zaporizhzhia region. This footage recorded a strike delivered by Russian units on the night of January 21st, followed by a quite powerful explosion. At the same time, it is currently difficult to say exactly which facility was hit. We only have visual materials, and detailed information about the target has not yet been officially published at this moment. Separately, a series of strikes on the Poltava region was reported. According to open sources, one of the most difficult situations regarding electricity supply is currently unfolding there. In the video footage, it is noticeable that as a result of the strikes, several reservoirs, presumably containing fuel, were damaged or completely destroyed. Another extremely important video arrived from the area of the Kharkiv region. This footage shows that during reconnaissance activities, the Russian side managed to identify the location of a position belonging to a missile battalion of the armed forces of Ukraine, after which a strike was delivered against the facility almost immediately using several Iskanders. Russian sources claim that first a missile struck the gathering point of troops, then a second Iskander hit the area where Ukrainian units were redeploying. According to statements by the author of this video material, as a result of the attack, the Ukrainian side lost one United States-made M270 multiple launch rocket system, approximately 20 units of equipment, and also approximately 15 armored vehicles. As for personnel losses, specific figures have not yet been named, and the information remains to be clarified. Reports also came in stating that today, January 21st, a strike was delivered against Kharkiv, using Iskanders and possibly using aerial bombs. Local sources claim that the strike hit a critical infrastructure facility, and corresponding footage was published throughout the day. Thick smoke is clearly visible in them, which indirectly indicates a serious fire. Apparently, some important infrastructure facility was indeed hit. Additionally, the local military administration reported today that approximately 90% of the territory of Kharkiv remains without electricity. Information is also being circulated that approximately 520,000 subscribers are deprived of basic conditions: electricity supply, heat supply, and possibly water supply. More footage appeared from the area of the Sumy region, but the situation here is different. In the video, one can see a platform used by the armed forces of Ukraine. Judging by everything, it is from here that launches may be carried out, likely deep into the territory of the Russian Federation using drones. There is a possibility that a certain bridgehead is being formed for the deployment of such launch points to slow down the advance of Russian troops north of the city of Sumy. As soon as this platform was identified, according to the author of the video, a strike was immediately delivered against it using the Iskander system. And pay attention to the scale of the explosion. It truly looks extremely powerful after the impact. At the same time, we understand that all these strikes are taking place against the background of a new negotiation process that intensified quite recently. At the moment, the main stage of negotiations on the topic of a possible settlement has, in essence, already been completed, and these contacts took place at the venue in Davos. Delegations from the United States of America and the Russian Federation participated in the negotiations. From the Russian side, as reported, Kirill Dmitriev traditionally participated in the negotiations, and the moment of his arrival in Davos can be seen in the footage. The American side was represented by Stephen Witkoff, as well as Donald Trump's son-in-law, Jared Kushner. The video recordings show the delegations gathering for the meeting in Davos. Sources claim that the negotiations took about 2 hours, and both sides, both the Russian and the American, confirm that the dialogue proved to be quite productive. Also, information appeared today that as early as tomorrow, Stephen Witkoff may fly to Russia, to Moscow, where he has a meeting scheduled with the President of the Russian Federation, Vladimir Putin. Ukrainian sources note at the same time that a real peaceful settlement is still far off. However, the process itself is developing quite actively. The American side states that out of the 20-point settlement plan, approximately 90% has already been agreed upon. Approximately 10% remains, and these points relate predominantly to the territorial issue. It is claimed that the Ukrainian side is not yet ready to make such concessions. That is, the negotiation mechanism continues, and simultaneously we see that against its background, both sides are delivering mutual strikes. In this way, both the Russian Federation and the Ukrainian side are trying to demonstrate that they retain the potential to continue combat operations and possess the resources and reserves for the further conduct of the war. However, during the course of the day, many reports were also received regarding a critical situation in Kyiv. In particular, the mayor of the capital of Ukraine, Vitaly Klitschko, stated that since the beginning of January, approximately 600,000 people have left the city. According to him, if the issue of electricity supply is not stabilized through the efforts of the Ukrainian side and the state as a whole, it could lead to Kiev becoming virtually completely deserted. Furthermore, this does not only concern Kiev. Similar risks may affect Kharkiv as well, which is already capable of leading to a large-scale humanitarian problem. In turn, Zelensky placed the responsibility for what is happening in Kiev on the armed forces of Ukraine, or more precisely, on the performance of air defense units, which, according to his version, played a key role in the unfolding situation. Also, against the background of strikes on the territory of the Russian Federation, including the Krasnodar Krai, Ukrainian sources began to actively disseminate reports that Russia has allegedly started preparation for a possible new strike using the Oreshnik system, which may take place in the very near future. Some resources claim that 2 launchers may be utilized for the attack at once. It is currently difficult to assess to what extent such forecasts correspond to reality. However, it will very soon become clear whether this information has a real basis. Now, let us move on to the situation directly along the line of military contact. We will begin with the Zaporizhzhia sector, where Russian units continue to advance toward the settlement of Zaliznichny from 2 sides simultaneously, from the south and from the east. Over the past 24 hours, new adjustments have appeared on the map. According to assessments from a number of sources, predominantly pro-Russian ones, the Russian army has managed to improve its position both south of Zaliznichny and east of it. Thus, we see a gradual convergence of Russian units toward this important settlement. Moreover, the main logic of the actions is an attempt to take Zaliznikne in a pincer movement. Next, we move to the Dobropilya direction. Today, the key events here are unfolding around the settlement of Grishine. As you may notice, the map in this sector has changed quite significantly. Back on January 18, 2026, the situation looked different. However, starting from January 19th, the map began to be regularly adjusted, either toward the expansion of the grey zone or directly in favor of the armed forces of the Russian Federation. All these changes are made exclusively on the basis of geolocations of video materials, which confirm that Russian units are actively advancing and conducting an assault on Grishine. It is based on these shots that the corresponding clarifications of the line of control are performed. At this moment, it is possible to say with confidence that approximately 30 to 35% of the territory of Grishine is located either in the grey zone or is already controlled by Russian forces. Furthermore, the advance of Russian units in this sector is also confirmed by neutral mapping services. The next sector is the Druzhkivka direction, where the Russian army is also maintaining high activity and, judging by everything, is increasing pressure on the positions of the armed forces of Ukraine along the Pavlivka-Novopavlivka line. I will remind you that the day before yesterday, the Ministry of Defense of the Russian Federation reported that Russian troops managed to significantly improve their position in this area, and based on this data, a corresponding adjustment was made. Later, on January 20th and 21, information began to appear regarding the further expansion of the zone of control in this direction. Currently, the main combat operations are effectively concentrated precisely around the Pavlivka-Novopavlivka line. In addition, the Russian Federation is delivering massive strikes using FABs, high-explosive aviation bombs, and is also actively using drones to strike settlements and temporary deployment points of Ukrainian units further north. In these frames, one can see an airstrike with an aviation bomb on the settlement of Torska, as well as a series of attacks by FPV drones in the same area. The Ukrainian side is trying to accumulate forces in this sector in order to promptly and timely transfer reinforcements further south with the goal of stabilizing the front. The Russian side is monitoring this and, accordingly, delivers strikes against the main logistical routes. We see that the Russian army is beginning to build forward movement, a movement that in the future, passing through a chain of small villages and minor settlements, could lead to reaching the southwestern outskirts of the settlement of Druzhkivka. If Russian units manage to enter the territory of Druzhkivka, the situation for the Ukrainian garrison in the area of Kostiantynivka may effectively become a stalemate. Now we move closer to Kostiantynivka itself, from where much news is also arriving. There are new adjustments here. This is how the map looked on January 20th, and today information appears that Russian units have shortened the distance in the direction of the settlement of Stepanivka. Apparently, the assault on this small settlement is beginning. As for the situation in the area of Ilyinka, there are no new details here yet. It seems as though the situation in this sector has stalled slightly. However, a quite noticeable advance of Russian units is recorded in the southeastern and eastern parts of the settlement. If one compares the map as it looked on January 20th and today's information, one can see an advance, and a serious one at that, both in the area of the railway station and in the eastern part of the city. There are geolocations confirming the presence of Russian units and their advance in this sector. Furthermore, it is important to note that many adjustments on the maps of various sources were made based on materials published by the Ukrainian side. Next, we move to the Lyman sector of the front. There are no noticeable changes here. The map is not undergoing serious adjustments. Some cartographers note only small clarifications east of the city of Lyman. Currently, the Russian side is effectively trying to level the front line between the northern part of Lyman and its southeastern part. That is, to establish itself along a conditional line that can be marked with a red marker. And already from these positions, they intend to move on a wider front toward the western and southwestern outskirts, with the goal of bringing the battle for the settlement to its logical conclusion. Footage of objective control is also being published. The delivery of strikes with LMURs, light multipurpose guided missiles, as well as strikes by FPV drones on the positions of FPV drone operators in this sector. The next direction is the Kupiansk direction. Today there are no serious news items and no major changes here. There are only small adjustments reflected by a number of pro-Ukrainian and neutral services. They are related to the advance of Russian units in the area of the settlement of Pishchana. Now we move to the northeastern direction of the Kharkiv region. A large amount of objective control material is being published from this sector. In them, one can observe strikes with FABs, as well as the use of Sul-Zepyok, TOS-1A systems against the positions of the armed forces of Ukraine. I will remind you that the Sul-Zepyok is a powerful weapon of limited range, and usually its use may indicate that an intensification of assault operations in this sector should be expected in the near future. Therefore, footage is appearing online from the Vovchansk direction, from the Liptsy sector, as well as from the Veliky Burluk direction. Furthermore, there are adjustments for the farthest sector of the northeastern part of the Kharkiv region. According to data from various mapping services, Russian troops managed to improve their positions in the area of the settlement of Kruglo. This is precisely the part of the Kharkiv region that at one time became separated from the main territory after the destruction of the bridge in the area of the settlements of Varvarivka and Mykolaiivka. As for the Sumy direction, it is without changes at the moment. That is all, dear friends. Thank you for watching, subscribe to the channel, give a like, and all the best to you.